Hi guys, Tony here from Tony Reviews. This week we're going to take a look at fitting blackout curtains to our van. You might find this helpful specifically if you're fitting blackout curtains to non-standard size windows. Because in this particular edition you'll find that the Transit MK8, which I've got, Van-X, the curtain company which I bought these curtains from, don't actually make Transit MK8 curtains. So I've had to use a variety of different alternatives. On the driver's side over here, we've got the VWT5 curtain, and on the sliding door side, which is a larger opening, I've actually got the Fiat Ducato curtain. And even though I've got the Fiat Ducato curtain, they still didn't fit. So if you want to know more about how to fit blackout curtains to your van, you can still watch this if you're fitting the standard models to your van and they fit. The process and the technique is still the same, but you might find some other little bits helpful in here if you're fitting, like I said, the non-standard curtains to your van, how to get around it. So let's roll the B-roll. So in the pack, you get your two Van-X curtains. Now I've opted for the black, which means they've got the black reverse, which is the blackout side, but also the facing side that you've got inside the van is black as well. You get your two tie backs for each side of the curtains to tie them back neatly, and that will attach to the van itself, and then these just press stud together to hold the curtains back. You've got a bundle of screws to fit the rails in. You've then also got another little bundle of gold screws, and they are for the end caps to your rails, and they're underneath, they're marked left and right, so you know which way they go. And you've got some press studs, which you will also attach with the gold screws to the wall of the van, and that is to press stud the side of the curtain to the van wall, because when you put the rail on your van window ledge, these little end caps, you can see the size of them there. These little end caps, they're 2 centimetres. They measure 2 centimetres. They measure 2 centimetres wide. So you can imagine that's a 2 centimetre gap you're going to have up the side of the curtain. So to stop that gap being there when you've got the curtains on, like, you know, you want to draw them, because this will be at the wall of the van, so you'll have either side of your window, you'll have a gap, and that's where these press studs come into play, because you press stud those against the wall of the van, which then negates the gap that you've got down the middle. In terms of the rails, I've got a little off-cut of rail here. I'll just show you the profile of that. Now, can you see that? So that groove that you've got there, that raised groove, that's what the little curtain sliders go in. Now the curtains themselves, these curtains are made for the Fiat Ducato. They don't actually make curtains for the Transit MK8, but these are the biggest curtains that they do. Now the drop on these currently is 59 centimetres, but Van-X tell me that these curtains can stretch to 70 centimetres in you know, length, like a drop. But that's a lot of tension, a lot of, you know, going through that curtain all the time. That tension's going to be on that rail the whole time. So what I'm going to actually do, I mean, I've got a little bundle of screws here. Don't know, I'd say there's probably about 10 screws there. I might actually, along that length, it's going to be a long rail. I'm probably going to add some additional screws on that, just because that is a lot of tension on that rail to be going through that 24 hours a day, 24/7. And I'll make sure that they're evenly spaced all the way throughout the rail as well. So this is the window on the driver's side, which is completely square. I say completely square, it might not actually be completely square, because obviously anything in a van is not always completely square. So when I cut my rails, I'm going to actually measure the bottom and the top separately. So this is 113, but I need to make allowances for those little plastic ends. So if I imagine they've got to go on like this, and measure in between. Yeah, you see now, even allowing for those, so that was 103 I said, it's now 98. You'll be glad to hear that the top rail is the same width as the bottom rail. They both measured the 98 with the gap for the little caps for the end. In getting the top one lined up, what I wanted to do, because this window frame, obviously your vans are all going to be different, but with this window frame and my particular window, the window pushes out and sort of bows in a convex sort of way, and obviously the frame's straight, so my window does that. Now what I'm trying to do is make sure that my rail is exactly the same gap on my window ledge as the top one, so that my curtains are not at an angle, that they sort of hopefully should be straight. So I'll pilot hole drilling all of the holes in the wood, obviously get the centre ones in so you can use that as a swivel. And the other thing I've done, I'll just show you what I've done here. So you know that the rail, what you screw into, I've got that running at the back. But when I measured this, what I made sure I did was have enough space for my drill, because obviously the width of the drill's got to go against the window. So I made sure that I had the width of the drill before I started making holes, that I could reach all the way down. So that's what I've done. So that, again, having the rail, the screws on that side, the runners and the curtain will hide the screws. So I mentioned raising the window ledge. Now originally my curtain rail would have had to sit within this part and on this part of the door, which, like I mentioned, measures 73 centimetres in the drop, and the curtains only reach up to 70. So what I've done is I've put these battens in, these wooden battens, Sikaflex them in. I've then countersunk some screw holes and put some self-drilling screws in, so that these are solid now. Because just with a Sikaflex, obviously the Sikaflex is movable. I'm sure it'd be strong enough to bond it, but you know, if it did ping off, then you've got to take the whole thing off and redo it. So I've put some countersink screws in strategically all the way along, just to hold these in, and these are, you know, this is like solid now, that's not going anywhere. This drop now measures 65 centimetres, so that's plenty. That gives me an extra 5 centimetres, you know, to play with really on the curtains, so to put a little bit less stress on them. So this is where we are at the moment, just putting the two battens in. I don't think I'm going to need to bend my rails, because the window, the rails are going to run all the way to here, so I literally have to cut my rails to finish from this top batten to the end of this top batten, and the same on the bottom. And like I mentioned, I'm going to make a face frame, so like I've made this covering here, I'm going to make one for the top half that goes around, and I'll cut out the window recess in the centre for it, so you'll basically have the surround all the way around, and the curtains will be set back behind that, and you can just shut them back and forth. So if this rail fits, I'll leave this tape on, because it's just providing another little layer of additional tension. Right, now this is cut slightly short because you need to make allowance for these end caps, so they just push on like that. You see that? They just push on like that. From the top profile, it will just look like the rail would. So now that's threaded on, I can actually get the end cap on. So now I've just got to put the press studs against the van here to stop the light coming in. So I need the 3 press studs in this side. That one's a little bit of a stretch, but it should be alright. It's got enough stretch. You can see the stretch in this material. Here we go, curtains in place. Put the little tie backs just under the middle press stud. Got the press studs in all the way down both sides, which will keep the light out, although the fascia that I'm making will keep the light out as well. The rail is nice and flush with the beam that I've put in, so you don't see any of that beam. All you see is the edging for the window and then the rail, so it looks pretty neat there. I'm happy with that. And then if we take the curtain tie backs off and we just pull these across, you can see it is absolutely completely blacked out. We ain't got any gaps in there at all. Plus, when we put the fascia around, you're not even going to see any of the workings that we've put in the bottom here. That's all going to be hidden. It will just appear almost like what I've done with the back door cards. You won't see anything happening there. It will just be hidden. So yeah, you won't even see the rails. Actually, the rails will be hidden. I'll probably bring it down to about here. Really happy with that. So on to the next bit, which is now making a template for the fascia that's going to go round here. So what do I think of the curtains? Well, I've yet to test them actually out in the field, but when you draw them, you can see it's absolutely, you know, completely blacked out. Even if you put your hand behind or whatever, you can't see a thing. If you've got a street light on or whatever, which I've got a light outside there, you can't see anything penetrating this material. So in terms of it being blackout, even though it's stretched to pretty much almost its maximum, there is still no light coming through. So in terms of the material is actually, it feels like a lycra, which is probably why it stretches so much. But it's not like those cheap lycra leggings. You know, like sometimes you get cheap lycra leggings and you bend over and you can see like the knickers come through. These ones you don't, they're double lined. I don't know what I said though, but they're double lined. You don't see nothing coming through the other side. But so yeah, they're really good. The actual finish, I must admit, I'm not a fan of the look, but I suppose this comes at the expense of them not letting the light through, being blackout. You know, it's got a slight sheen to it. I would prefer it if it was more like that matted material look, you know, like you could see the actual weave in the material, but you can't. It is like a lycra. It's not too bad, but I'm not a great fan of that sort of silky finish. So yeah, very, very well made, double lined, stitched all the way round, you know, no little bits hanging off, you know, they feel very robust, you know, they slide up and down the rails really, really nicely. So really happy with that. And obviously in terms of the fitting process, as you saw, it's pretty straightforward. One thing which I didn't use out of the kit was the rail bender. You get like a little rail bender in the kit, which you can attach to a tabletop and use that to sort of slightly bend if you are bending it around the arcs in the van. So all that's left for me to say really is, if you haven't yet checked out the Let Us Live website, go to www.letuslive.co.uk. It's a website inspired by motorcycles and adventure, so if you're into any of those two things, you're going to absolutely love the site. And if you put Tony Reviews in the checkout, you get a 5% discount there as well. So if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, you can click the little button below. You can click the little bell icon as well, which means you're updated when I make the latest release on the channel. This channel's all about motorcycle reviews and adventures, and lately it's been about the van build. So if any of those things sound like things that you're interested in, be sure to click below and you'll be notified when I do the latest release. So all that's left for me to say is, in the meantime, safe riding, safe driving, happy adventures, and I'll see you all in the next one.